Hi everyone. Today we'll discuss about friend function and friend class in C. So first, let's move to friend function. To understand a friend function properly, let's try to understand it by taking analogy with real life example, right? So let's consider a real life scenario. So there is a family, right? So we all know class is like a family, and there are some things which are private to a family, right, which are not shared with anyone outside, but usually there is some family friend or someone who has some knowledge of the private matters of the family or some private information of the family. So on the similar line we can say that like there is a class in C++, there is a class, and there is a third party. You can see that third party or a friend class or friend function which has the knowledge of the internal matters of the class, right? So it is the class, and this is the friend function, right? So if we consider a total picture, the overall a big picture is that we have a class, right? We have got some data members in it and member functions which are private, which no one even the child class has access to. And but C++ gives us a functionality called friend function which has the access to the private properties of the class. If we talk about in simple terms, then a friend function a friend function is basically a function which has the access to the private properties of the class, right? So this is the whole picture, and we can also say that friend function is a function which is used to access the private properties of the class, right? So this is the motive of the friend function. A friend function is nothing but like a simple function which will be used to perform all the things that a function is supposed to do, but that function is declared friend inside of a class, right? So how to do it? Let's do it practically, right? And this is our namespace standard, and this is our main function. Now uh, let's create a class, you know. Let's take example of this class only. Yeah. So this is the class family, and family has some private internal matter. So let's define this function. No outside person is supposed to know them. Now, in this class, we will declare a friend, and the friend's name should be, let's take the help of this example. The friend name is Resolve the Matters. So if you can carefully observe, I have just declared, if I remove this friend keyword, this is normal, this is like a normal declaration of a function. I have just put the keyword friend here, right? So that way we are telling the C++ that this function is our friend, and let it allow means the to let it and allow, and we are allowing it to access the private matters of the family, right? And let's create a function. I am passing the object of family here, and I am an outside person who has the access of family internal details, right? And also, and yeah, with the help of this object f, it can access the private internal matters of the family. And let's invoke this function, right? So let's create the object of this class first, and now let's call this function. Let's try to run it and see if there's any issues or something. No errors, and let's see the output. Yeah, so I'm an outside person who has the access to family internal details. These are the private. Yeah, so just a minute, and now let's see. Yeah, so when we have invoked this function, it has printed the out printed this line also, and it has invoked this function also, which is basically a private function. So from outside we should not have access to, but this friend function has access to the private details. Now it sounds very useful that okay, we have the functionality also to access the private details, but if you can think it logically, right? Let me show it here. There is a friend function, right? There is an outside entity friend function, and we have a class. In the class there is a restricted section, right? you can say it as the entry is not allowed, but friend function has access to this, right? The problem here is from the outside world. From the outside world, anyone can invoke this friend function, and with the help of friend function, virtually, indirectly, can access the private details of the class. And basically, not even the child class has access to these details. So it also refutes or negates the whole purpose of using private access modifier, right? So basically, friend function is a thing which is basically you can use it. You can see it. I see it as a loophole. You know, I see friend function as a loophole because using friend function there is no meaning left in private, right? Similarly, we have friend class, but basically this whole friend thing is not recommended in programming practices because when you develop or real life softwares, then data privacy is a thing that is taken utmost care of, right? So it basically compromises on data security and privacy, which was the core principle or component of hoops, right? So there is no point in using means this is basically not regarded as a good practice, right? So let's see the disadvantages of using friend function. The disadvantage is, yeah, it's a pure security loophole. Anyone can access a friend function, and a friend function can access the private properties of a class. So basically anyone can access the private properties of a class. Exactly. In this example also, the main function is basically accessing this, which is a private data member, which should not be accessed, right? It is there only for the internal processing, but with the help of friend function we are doing that also. So it's equivalent of using public, right? Not even protected. It's like a public, right? So it doesn't even have the protected privileges. It has basically no security privileges, right? So using friend function, you are making that thing, that member function or data member as public indirectly, right? So it's not recommended. So let's move to the friend class, right? So let's move to the friend class. So we have already seen what is friend function, so it should not be that difficult to understand what is friend class, right? So friend class is a normal class which can be declared as a friend to other classes, right? So using, if you want to take a real life analogy, then let me explain it. We have a family, right? Earlier there was a function, but here we have two families, right? It is like, it's like family 1, right, and family 2. Like every family, family 1 has something private, right? Some private data members or member functions which should not be shared outside. But this class being a friend of this family, being a friend of this family, knows all this or knows have access to all the details of this private section. So let me highlight here also that this this is a private section, right? So nobody should have the access to this, but since family 1 has some access, sorry, private family 2 has access to these private details of family 1, so that is basically a friend class. In friend class, so for example, there are multiple functions here. Let's say we have a function 1, this is function 2, this is function 3, and this is function 4. So when we declare this family as a friend to this family, every function of this family will be a friend of this family, right? Every function has access to the private details of this restricted area, which is again a really big security loophole. Instead of one function in this scenario, all the functions of this class has access to this restricted area, right? So let's talk in terms of programming, a real life analogy. In case of family, we just need to replace class, right? So that's the thing is, the only difference is this, for example, we have two classes, right? On the similar grounds, we have two classes. This is class 1, right? And this is class 2. So this class being a friend of this class, basically, if a class is a friend, for example, class 2 is a friend of class 1, doesn't hamper the processes or any functionality of class 2. Class 2 will behave like a normal class. It will follow the rules of inheritance, polymorphism, the rules of basic OOPs, right? But it will just be a friend of class 1, will have data access of the private members of the class 1, right? But one thing we have to understand is, class 2 is a friend of class 1, right? It doesn't mean that class 1 is a friend of class 2, right? It actually doesn't mean. If this condition is true, then this condition is basically false, right? So it is not a two-way communication, or you can say that class 1 has access to class 2 or class 2 has access to class 1, then vice versa is may or may not be true. It all depends whether class 2 will declare class 1 as a friend or not, right? So that's the whole narrative. So let's move ahead. Yeah, whenever class is declared as a friend class, then every function of that class becomes a friend function, right? And we don't explicitly declare the function of that class as a friend. We just declare the class as a friend class and nothing more than that, right? Yeah, the friend keyword is always used. Just like you can see, there's only one keyword, friend, is used here, right? This function is a normal function which will continue to act like a function, and just this function is declared as a friend here, right? And let's create another program, another class. uh, Now we have family one, right? And there are some private. These are the private of family one, right? And yeah, the name should be capital. One thing is just like this, we have to declare. Yeah, class to declare a class as a friend class. First we have to write the keyword friend, then keyword class, and then the class name, and then the semicolon as usual, right? So if you can see, if you can carefully see this example or some any example, right? If there are matters that family 2 wants to resolve, then it must have access to these details, right? Because there must be a problem to if you want to give solution. So that's the thing. Void resolve family 1, and we are giving pointer to object. I guess you know pointers already, and we are another family, but still we have access and it can even invoke that function, right? So that's the thing, it's a public class, so with the help of object, I guess. So let's see. Till now what we have done is we created a family class as family 1. We created some internal private members in it. Then we declared the friend class. Then we declared a class family 2 as a friend class. We created a family 2, a class named as family 2, and we created a member function resolve matters which will access the private details of the family one, right? And we are trying to access indirectly the private details of family one using family 2 because family 2 is a friend function, right? So the first let's close it and let's see. Yeah, so basically we have to pass f1 object here, right? Yeah, there are no errors, no nothing. Just a minute, let me create a new line here so that we can actually see the output, right? Yeah, we are another family, but still we have access to private details of family one, and it's basically after that it's invoking the private details of the class family. These are the private internal details of the family one, right? So basically from outside we are accessing the private details of family 2 not directly but indirectly, right? It's as equivalent to the public. So this is the this is the friend class. Notice that we haven't declared the function resolve matters as friend. We have declared the whole family as a friend, so every member of the family has access to the private details of the family one, right? Just like in this, like every member has access to the private area of the family one. So that this is the whole point, and I guess it's again a security issue. So this is the disadvantage is, yeah, it's pure security loophole. Anyone can make of the object of friend class and access the private object of that class. Means basically anyone can access the private property of that class, right? So the point is, yeah, I have already told you that there is not a two-way. If one class is a friend of another class is if one class is a friend of other class, it doesn't applies vice versa, right? For example, there are two classes A and B. If A is a friend class of B, it doesn't mean that B is a friend class of A, right? So that's the whole thing. I hope you understood it. It's pretty much I have tried to explain this concept in really simple manner. And one more thing is, one class can be friend to many classes, one function can be a friend function to many classes, right? If I would try to picturize it, class 1, class 2, class 3. If class 1 is basically, class 1 can be friend of two classes. Similarly, a normal function can be a friend of two or more classes, right? So these things are possible. You just have to keep the fundamentals right. You have to understand the fundamentals of oops, and everything else should fall into the place, right? You can also ask, like, if class 1 is friend of class 3 and class 2 is also friend of class 3, so basically are they friends of each other? The answer is no, because these are pretty much normal classes, and if they aren't friend of each other, they will not share the details directly, right? And basically a friend class leaks the detail of other class but not its own, right? So if you have any doubts, actually I'm expecting some doubts here, because when I was at the learning stage I had so much doubts, right? So so in the next lecture we'll discuss virtual functions, and we'll discuss that in the next lecture. Till then, keep learning, keep growing. Thank you.